Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about two saints who were not included in Father James Martin's Who Cares About the Saints series, but are still incredible examples of what it means to live a Christian life. The two saints I chose are Saint Carlo Acutis and Saint Maximilian Kolbe. I chose these two because even though they lived in completely different times, they show that holiness is possible for anyone. One was a teenager who loved computers and soccer, while the other was a priest who lived during World War II. Their lives were very different, but they both answered God's call with courage, faith, and love for others. Before I talk about each saint, I think it's important to understand why Catholics honor saints in the first place. Sometimes people think about Catholics worship saints, but that's not true. Catholics worship God alone. Saints are honored because they are examples of people who lived extraordinary lives of faith. They show us what it looks like to follow Jesus in everyday life. Their stories remind us that holiness isn't only for priests, nuns, or for people from long ago. Every Christian is called to become holy through the way they live, the choices they make, and the way they love God and other people. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in this course is the idea of the universal call to holiness. That means every baptized Christian is called to become a saint. Holiness doesn't require being perfect. It means trusting God, continuing to grow in faith, and serving others. The saints provide real examples of people who accepted that call despite facing challenges and hardships. The first saint I want to discuss is Saint Carlo Acutis. Carlo was born in London, 1991, but he grew up in Milan, Italy. Unlike many saints we hear about from hundreds of years ago, Carlo lived in a world that looks very similar to ours. He enjoyed playing soccer, hiking, spending time with friends, and especially working with computers. He was very interested in technology and even taught himself computer programming and web design while he was still young. What makes Carlo especially interesting is that he didn't see technology as something that distracted people from God. Instead, he believed technology could become a powerful tool for evangelization. He wanted to use his talent to spread the gospel rather than simply entertain himself online. At the time when many people use the internet mostly for social media or games, Carlo used it to share his faith with people around the world. From a young age, Carlo had an unusual strong relationship with God. He attended Mass frequently, prayed the Rosary, and spent time in the Eucharistic adoration whenever he could. He once described the Eucharist as the highway to heaven, meaning that receiving Jesus in the Eucharist helped guide people toward a closer relationship with God. His faith wasn't something he practiced only on Sundays. It influenced the way he treated people every day. One project Carlo became especially known for was creating a website that documented Eucharistic miracles from around the world. He spent years researching approved miracles recognized by the Church, gathering information, photographs, and historical details. His goal wasn't simply to make an interesting website. He hoped that by learning about these miracles, more people would recognize the importance of the Eucharist and strengthen their faith. Today, his exhibit has been displayed in many countries and continues to educate Catholics around the world. Another reason Carlo inspires so many people is because he practices charity in quiet, consistent ways. He defended classmates who were bullied, treated everyone with kindness, and regularly gave money and food to people experiencing homelessness. Even though he came from a comfortable family, he believed it was important to think about the needs of others rather than focusing only on himself. Sadly, Carlo's life was very short. At only 15 years old, he was diagnosed with leukemia. Instead of becoming angry or asking why this happened to him, he accepted his suffering with remarkable faith. He offered his pain to God, for the Pope, and for the Church, believing that even suffering could have meaning when united with Christ. Only a short time after being diagnosed, Carlo passed away in 2006. Although he lived only 15 years, Carlo's impact continues today. In 2020, he was beatified by the Catholic Church after a miracle attributed to his intercession was approved, and he has become one of the most recognized young Catholics in the world. Many teenagers relate to him because he lived during the internet age, enjoyed hobbies that young people still enjoy today, and showed that following Christ is possible even in modern life. For me, Carlo Acutis is inspiring because he reminds me that I don't have to wait until I'm older to live with faith. Sometimes it's easy to think that becoming holy is something adults do and later in life. Carlo proves that it's not true. He used the talents God gave him while he was still a teenager, and he made a difference by combining his faith and skills he already had. For example, encourages me to think about how I can use my own talents, not just for myself, but to help other people grow closer to God. In the next part of my podcast, I will finish talking about Carlo's legacy and then introduce the second saint I chose, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, whose incredible courage during one of history's darkest moments continues to inspire millions of Christians today. Okay, now I'd like to move on onto the second saint I chose, Saint Maximilian Kolbe. While Carlo Acutis shows that holiness can be lived through everyday life and modern technology, Maximilian Kolbe demonstrates what it means to remain faithful even in face of extreme suffering and evil. Maximilian Kolbe was born in Poland, 1894. From a young age, he was deeply devoted to his Catholic faith, especially to the Virgin Mary. According to his stories from his childhood, he had a vision to which Mary offered him two crowns, a white crown representing purity and a red crown representing martyrdom. Maximilian chose both, meaning he wanted to dedicate his life completely to God, no matter what sacrifices that would require. As he grew older, he joined the Franciscan order and eventually became a priest. He was very intelligent and believed that modern forms of communication could be used to spread the gospel. He started a magazine called The Night of the Immaculata, which shared Catholic teachings and encouraged people to grow closer to Christ. Over time, the publication became one of the largest Catholic magazines in the world. Father Kolbe also founded a religious community called Neapok Alanao. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Often translated as the City of the Immaculate. It became one of the largest Franciscan monasteries in the world. The friars living in their time praying, publishing Catholic materials, and serving the people around them. Maximilian believed that evangelization should reach as many people as possible, so he embraced newspapers, magazines, and even the radio broadcasts to share the faith. In many ways, this is similar to Carlo Acutis using the internet. Although he lived decades apart, both saints understood that modern technology could become a tool for bringing people closer to God. Everything changed when World War II began. In 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, bringing violence, fear, and persecution. Father Kolbe refused to abandon the people who depended on him. Instead, he opened the monastery to thousands of refugees, including many Jewish families who were fleeing persecution. He provided food, shelter, and safety for anyone who needed help, regardless of their background or religion. This reflected Jesus' command to love our neighbor without conditions. Eventually, the Nazis arrested Father Kolbe because of his religious work and his refusal to cooperate with the regime. After being in prison for a time, he was sent to Auschwitz concentration camp, one of the most terrible places created during the Holocaust. Prisoners there faced starvation, forced labor, disease, violence, and constant fear. Even in these horrific conditions, Father Kolbe continued to encourage other prisoners. He prayed with them, shared what little food he had, and he reminded people not to lose hope. The moment that Maximilian Kolbe happened in 1941. After one prisoner escaped, the camp officials selected 10 men to die by starvation as punishment. One of the chosen prisoners cried out because he feared leaving behind his wife and children. Hearing this, Father Kolbe stepped forward and volunteered to take the man's place. The decision shocked everyone. The prisoners almost never volunteered for death, especially for someone they did not know personally. Yet Father Kolbe believed that the greatest form of Christian is love. Love was to lay down one's life for another. Just as Jesus taught in the Gospel of John, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. The Nazis accepted his request. Father Kolbe, and the other prisoners were placed in a starvation bunker. According to witnesses, instead of despair, he led the prisoners in prayer and hymns. Even while suffering, he encouraged those around him to trust in God. After 2 weeks, he was the last survivor in the bunker because they wanted to empty the cell. The guards ended his life with a lethal injection on August 14, 1941. After the war, the man whose life Maximilian Kolbe saved, Franciscan Jagoniskis, survived and spent the rest of his life telling people about the priest who sacrificed everything for him. Thanks to the testimony and testimony of others, the world came to recognize Father Kolbe's extraordinary faith and courage. In 1982, Pope John Paul II canonized Maximilian Kolbe as a saint and referred to him as the Martyr of Charity. That title is significant because it recognizes that he will willingly give his life out of love for another person. His sacrifice reflects one of the highest examples of Christian discipleship. In the final part of this podcast, I'll compare St. Carlo Acutis and St. Maximilian Kolbe, explain what they teach us about Christian life, and share why I believe their examples are still important for young people today. Now that I've talked about both St. Carlo and Acutis and St. Maximilian individually, I want to compare them and explain why I think they are both such powerful models of Christian life. At first, they seem completely different. Carlo was a teenager who lived in 2000s and loved computers, while Maximilian was a priest who lived during the World War II and eventually died in concentration camp. Their lives were separated by almost a century, and they experienced very different challenges. However, when you look deeper, they actually have a lot in common. The biggest similarity is that both saints used the gifts God gave them to serve other people. Carlo used his knowledge of technology to teach people about the Eucharist and strengthen their faith. He didn't keep his talents to himself or used them only for entertainment. Instead, he used them to evangelize and help others grow closer to Christ. Maximilian Kolbe also used the talents God gave him. He was an excellent communicator and founded magazines, newspapers, and other forms of Catholic media to spread the gospel. Later in life, he used something even greater than his talents, his own life, to save another person. Another thing they shared was that they put others before themselves. Carlo regularly helped experiencing homelessness, defending classmates who were bullied, and tried to make everyone included. These actions may seem small, but they reflect the same love that Jesus showed throughout his ministry. Maximilian Kolbe lived in the same kind of love in more dramatic way when he willingly gave his life for another prisoner in Auschwitz. Both saints remind us that holiness isn't measured by faith or success. It's measured by how much we love God and serve others. I also noticed that both saints practiced many of the corporal and spiritual works of mercy that we studied this week. Carlo fed the hungry and helping people in need and showed kindness to those who were lonely and excluded. Maximilian comforted and afflicted, prayer with fellow prisoners, and ultimately gave he, everything he had to save another person's life. Their actions remind us that mercy isn't just about something we talk about, it's something we live through our choices and actions. Personally, I think Carlo Acutis is a saint that I can relate to the most because we're closer in age. He lived in the world of computers, phones, and the internet, just like we do today. He showed that technology isn't itself good or bad, it depends on how we use it. Instead of allowing technology to distract them from God, he used it to share his faith with people all over the world. That challenges me to think about how I spend my time online and whether I'm using technology in a positive way. I also think Maximilian Kolbe inspired me because of his courage. I hope I never have to face the thing he experienced. Together, these two saints show that there isn't only one path to holiness, but some people are called to make a difference. Those small daily acts of kindness, while others are called extraordinary sacrifice. The important thing is responding to God's call with faith and generosity and love. To conclude, studying these saints have helped me to understand that holiness is something every Christian is invited to pursue. Saint Carlo Augustus teaches us to use our talents for God and to live our faith even as young people. Saint Maximilian Kolbe teaches us the incredible power of selflessness, love, and courage. Although their lives were very different, both dedicated themselves completely to Christ and became examples for millions of people around the world. I hope their stories encourage me and everyone listening to think about how we can live our faith every day. We may have never we may never become famous saints or perform extraordinary miracles, but we all have the opportunities to show kindness, serve others, forgive people, and trust God in our daily lives. Holiness begins with those small choices, as both Carlo Augustus and Maximilian Kolbe demonstrate. Those choices can have an impact far greater than we can ever imagine. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I hope you enjoyed learning about these two inspiring saints and how they continue to model the Christian life today. Sorry if I went into the 16 and 17 range minute recording. Um yeah. Have a good day.